Hey everyone, welcome to Redmen TV. So Liverpool round out the transfer window with the loan signing of Arthur Melo from Juventus. Yes, the former Barcelona and Gremio man, the man with 22 caps for Brazil, joining for the rest of the campaign. Reportedly no option or obligation to buy as well. Makes it a bit of a free hit for the Reds, I guess. Interesting stuff. Liverpool identifying an issue, ultimately identifying they needed more midfielders probably at some point a year ago. Unable to get the targets that they truly wanted, but feeling maybe they could muddle through. Probably a bit disrespectful, I guess, to some seasoned international players that Liverpool do own, but this is the internet. We're allowed to be disrespectful to people accidentally. Liverpool clearly thought they could get by for one more half season, one more full season with what they had, but the injury crisis deepening as the season kicked off, some poor form, and then ultimately Liverpool playing the midweek game just last night. The injuries to Jordan Henderson feels like that's a moment that's led to just, there's the nuclear option, go and push it. Very, very similar vibes to what Liverpool did in what we call the season we don't discuss, the season of no defenders, and ultimately pushing the button on Ben Davies and then Ozan Kabak. When Matip goes down and they know there's no way of kind of massaging him through the season. Okay, well, big shrug, that's annoying, what are we going to do, cry about it? No, let's go and get someone or someone's in. And look, is there a difference this time around? Yeah, it feels a little bit more proactive, slightly more proactive. I mean, ultimately, Curtis Jones was back on the substitutes bench. Talk to Thiago will be another week or so before he's back as well. Liverpool feel like they're ever so slightly emerging from this. There are a number of options there. There are a number of bodies, even like someone like Stefan Bajcetic as well, who's look very promising. It's not a position of strength Liverpool doing from this, far from it, but it's not quite in the total catastrophic situation that they were certainly in 2021 with the defender situation. So yeah, hand forced, I would suggest, certainly, but not from a position of dear God, like absolute and total utter panic stations. A bit more like, okay, this is the reality of our situation, deep breath, push the button and let's get on with it. And look, there's a lot of ranging takes on Arthur as a player, where he's at in his career. 26 years old, so he fits into one of the number one category hole that we have in Liverpool's squad is midfielders of the quality to play in the midfield, aged between 23 and 27. Basically, there's no one. Naby Keita's just on the fringes of that, of course. Oxlade-Chamberlain's just a little bit older. All the players that Liverpool being linked with toward the back end of the window, all around the 25-year-old mark. So yeah, they've gone out and they've done that. He was very, very highly regarded at Gremio, very, very highly regarded when he came in at Barcelona. And it's not quite worked out for him. Ends up being a bit of like and it was described to me as a creative accounting transfer with Pjanic involved as in a swap deal with Juve, which never helps. I mean, we've seen this, or again, I should say, we're seeing this with Frankie de Jong and Barcelona and Juventus, and there's a reason why they're the guys who are driving the Super League, because financially, they're screwed, so they're performing all kinds of financial voodoo to keep their heads above water, and kind of player welfare and player careers be damned to some extent on that. There's going to be a fascinating documentary in about 10 or 15 years when all these guys have retired and they get to really lift the lid on what's happened around there. But it's not necessarily a mark of where he was or wasn't at that move. But what we do know, and that's just looking at his appearances, that he's not kicked on at Juventus. He's averaging about 1,500 minutes a season, about 30 to 35 games, which is kind of similar to what we're seeing from Thiago Alcantara, to be fair. A lad who I think it's clear hasn't fulfilled the high bar of potential that he set for himself in his early career. one might argue that Juventus have got a little bit of a track record of not getting the best out of players, particularly recently. So that certainly doesn't mean we should be writing him off. It means that there's a chance that he actually might be better than he's maybe being touted as over in Italy and in and around Turin, of course. So it's an interesting one. The fact that he's racked up, 20 odd international caps, the fact that he has played for two European heavyweights would suggest there's something there. But does he have what it takes to cut it at Liverpool? Does he have the physicality? Does he have the speed of thought to deal with the pace of the Premier League? Probably, but that's going to be a really big test. And again, allusions to his off the pitch actions, his personality, his character. Does he have what it takes to keep himself on the straight and narrow? Does he have the laser guided focus towards his football? We've seen Liverpool have troublemakers come to the club in the past and it's worked, and we've seen troublemakers come to the club and it not work. I think it's like opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got Nicolas Anelka, who was probably the most settled that he'd ever been at a football club coming to Liverpool, even though he came with the whole Le Sulk reputation. Mario Balotelli came with a reputation of being a bit of a wild card, more interested in his life off the pitch, and was shite. So, hopefully in this instance, maybe it lies somewhere closer to the Nicolas Anelka thing than there. But feels like a total free hit for Liverpool, this, if we're being perfectly honest. Would it have been better if they'd gone out and signed someone on a permanent deal? Maybe. But it certainly speaks to me that, as we long suspected, I think they must have something up their sleeves in that position. And if we're talking about his position, we're talking about a guy who's probably going to be, if he's able to get up to that level, best case scenario is in rotation with Thiago. But acceptable case scenario, he can give Thiago a little bit of time off here and there. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour in football matches. Ideally, you want him to be able to start in 3, 1 in 4, if that means that it gives Thiago the time off to be at the peak of his powers, of course. But yeah, it seems that look, we're not here cartwheeling. It's not the signing we were all hoping for. Everyone was clamouring for a Jude Bellingham, and of course at the start of the window, Aurelien Tchouameni, and any number of the players that have kind of been floating around over the transfer window, I guess would set the pulses racing. But we have seen this. Liverpool have got prize for this, whether you like it or not. And look, I don't know. I am certainly not against Liverpool spunking cash up the wall on a brilliant footballer. I love it when we do that. Genuinely love it, because it tends to mean we've bought someone boss when we do that. But we also know that Liverpool don't do it frivolously, because if you do it frivolously, you end up like Manchester United. You end up with guys who are on inflated wages, with inflated egos, who underperform, who don't fight, bleed, die for your football club and your shit, and then the pains in the arse to get off the books. Christ, Liverpool have had enough of them themselves over the years. The early days of FSG are marked by them trying to shift a bunch of guys who just weren't, to use a Kloppism, weren't interested in pushing the train to get it going. They wanted to be on the train that was already at top speed. So yeah, this would suggest to me that we're going to follow down the model that we saw with a little bit, obviously with the Alisson situation. We definitely saw it with Virgil van Dijk. We saw it a little bit with Thiago Alcantara, and more recently we've seen it with Ibrahima Konate, where the Reds have probably got a target that they really, really want. They're very, very, very confident that it's going to be happening, if it's not already largely agreed. We don't know that now, so it's going to lead to a little bit of speculation, a little bit of upset. What this guy does is, worst case, he's a bit of a stopgap. Best case is he fulfills that potential. He's been described as a guy who picks passes that other players can't find. That is something we need to be able to have more of in our team. Thiago is so important to how we play, but he's never going to play 60 games a season. We found a nice balance last year between him, Naby Keita and Curtis Jones, where you could rotate them around, and maybe injuries, there'd be enough to cover it. Well, one fell, you bat on it, relay race style. I think they're hoping to kind of do that again this season. They'd hoped it with Naby, they'd hoped it with Curtis. Injuries have curtailed that, so maybe just bringing Arthur in as one more guy to add to that sort of pack. He's not probably going to be a 50 game a season player. But if you can help out, then maybe that's all Liverpool kind of need while they wait for the big gun, whomever that might be in the summer, to come along. And hopefully Liverpool haven't undercut what they're trying to do. We won't know until we see. But Liverpool have had a tricky start to the season. I think we can all agree that. Would one more midfielder have helped at the start of the window? I think we could say undoubtedly at this point, but we do know that Liverpool, to play for Liverpool, to make a name for yourself at Liverpool right now, you need to be the best of the best. You need to be a wonder kid, or you need to be a footballer who's right on the cusp, ready to break out and make yourself a world star. Our transfer policy has been impeccable. It is the envy of every football club in the country, more or less on the planet as well. There's very few get it close to as right as Liverpool do, and also challenge right at the top, who get to Champions League finals, who run it close in the Premier League most seasons. So yeah, I guess a degree of trust, although it would be nice if we did loosen the purse strings sometimes and maybe not worry so much about the net spend. Wouldn't be against a 100 million deficit because you've gone and got someone who's absolutely, totally and utterly worth offsetting your books for 18 to 24 months or whatever. Right. That's my thoughts on Melo. I think it's decent. I think it's a decent little move. Time will tell. Will he be fit enough to start in the derby? We don't know. But if you want to go deeper and if you want to know more, don't worry. I've got you covered. I spoke to Neil Jones of Goal.com. We do Journo Insights every week. I got his inside take on the deal in and around Liverpool Football Club. Here's a little clip from that.
He hasn't played much football. Hasn't played any football this season, which means he won't be match fit. How quickly will he be starting games? We don't know. He's had a few injury problems. Should fit in quite well at Liverpool. Both Juventus and Barcelona have signed him. Both Juventus and Barcelona have got rid of him. What does that tell you? We don't know. How much scar tissue has he got from his last visit to Anfield? When he came, he was on the pitch when Barca were beaten 4-0. I don't think that'll be a big deal, but... And also, I'm guessing he's been available all summer, given that he hasn't featured for Juventus. Yeah, he wasn't on the pre-season tour. He hasn't been in the squad for the Serie A. I've seen him linked with a lot of clubs.
Reportedly, he's been getting, and this is just mutterings on the grapevine, but he's been getting offered round all kinds. Apparently, Everton, but he was offered to Everton as well, and most of them have turned him down. I mean. Yeah. That's the thing. It's fine. I mean, this is what happens when you just need a body in midfield. And to your point, if you're going to get a body in midfield, a 26-year-old Brazilian international who's played for Barcelona, Juventus, you can do far worse, I would imagine. Brilliant. Yeah, and I spoke to European football expert Andy Brassel to really find out his opinion. He literally knows every single player on the continent to get a really expert, and it's literally the show, expert insight into the player, his time at Barcelona, his time at Juventus, what type of footballer Liverpool are bringing in, how he's likely to fit into Jurgen Klopp, the problems that he's had, and everything along the way. Educate yourself on Arthur Melo with this.
You might remember the time that Barcelona beat Tottenham 4-2 at Wembley in the Champions League. Messi was the best player on the pitch and he was the second best player on the pitch. He was absolutely phenomenal in that game. And at that point, I think a lot of people all over Europe, all over the world, think Barcelona have got their Xavi replacement. He's got time on the ball. He can see everything. It's like he's got 360 vision. He's got great variation of passing. But since then, obviously, what's happened to Barcelona has happened to Barcelona. He didn't really step on from that, which was an issue. He had a few injury complications at both Barcelona and Juventus. Of course, he was part of that Miralem Pjanic swap that wasn't a swap, which might have been some creative accounting on the case of both clubs. And he's got a bit lost at Juventus in a midfield which is much of a muchness.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff. Yeah, redmenplus.com. It's a bit like Patreon. It's a bit like Netflix for Liverpool fans, and it's a lot like the stuff that we do, which is interesting, hopefully insightful, grows your understanding of Liverpool on the pitch, off the pitch, culturally, and puts a big smile on your face while you're doing it as well, which God knows we all need from time to time. So yeah, do go over redmenplus.com. You're going to get that in video and in podcast form as well, as is true with all of our bonus weekly extra podcasts and studio shows as well. Loads of documentaries on there to occupy you and all. It's boss. I love it. Our army of subscribers over there seem to enjoy it as well, and if you're enjoying it already, let people know in the comments of this. That always helps. Anyway, you guys are amazing. It remains to be seen how good Arthur is, but what do you think now on Liverpool's transfer business over the summer? I'd even be prepared to kick Diaz into it if I'm being cheeky, but Darwin Núñez, Carvalho hitting the ground running, Calvin Ramsey remains to be seen, and Arthur Melo. Rated out of 10 for me in the comments section underneath. Drop a like on this, subscribe to our YouTube channel, join us on redmenplus.com. And anyway, that is enough for this transfer window. Let's just crack on with the footy, Boss. Get closer to Liverpool Football Club and the amazing city of Liverpool with Redmen Plus. More content for your eyes and ears, documentaries, extra bonus Redmen shows, podcast features, interviews. Get close to the culture of Liverpool Football Club on Redmen Plus.